6:30. This is a business committee meeting, the Board of Trustees, Tuesday, January the 15th, 6:30. We're at the UISD Board Meeting, 201 Lindenwood Drive. Mr. Zuniga, do you have something to present?
Yes, sir. If I may, Mr. Molina, Mr. Rodriguez, I'd like to request that we move item number 3 up for the first item for discussion today.
Okay, on item A, we're going to start with item number 3, approval of independent audit report for the year ending on August 31st, 2018.
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez and Mr. Molina. Today we have Mr. Carlos Cascos from Patillo Brown and Hill. He's a partner in that firm, and he is going to be delivering the audit and presenting some numbers to you this evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Carlos Cascos, and I'm here to present the independent audit report from United ISD. First of all, congratulations on once again earning an unmodified opinion. I was going to tell you with all the board here about what an unmodified opinion is. That is the most favorable opinion that any CPA firm can give any entity, whether it's the private sector or the public sector. That means that your financial statements are stated fairly and in compliance with all applicable laws. But I'm going to get to the highlight of it, and I understand that you do not have page numbers on the audit report. So I'm going to give you just some basic numbers. First of all, let me indicate to you that your unassigned fund balance, which is the fund balance that is not encumbered, not committed, is at $65,307,000. Your total expenditures for the year were $425,201,000. And I'm rounding to the nearest hundred. Now, the reason that's important is because it costs this school district about almost $1.2 million to open your doors every single day. $1,164,000 is what it costs you based on the expenditures that are on your audit report. If you compute that number with your unassigned fund balance, that means that you've got 56 days worth of operations. We can't control the revenue that comes in, so if everybody decided not to pay anything for whatever reason, this school district could theoretically continue operating for 56 days without any disruption. You can still continue opening your doors, paying your administration, paying your teachers, paying your paraprofessionals, running your school buses, running the day-to-day activity of the school for 56 days. What I do want to compliment the board and the administration on is the fact that when you adopted your budget, you did a pretty good job in adopting your budget. We can't control the revenues that come in. That's beyond our control. When you budgeted revenues, you came in short about $268,000, $265,587 to be exact, which is really a pretty good threshold. But what you did even better at was really in not expending the amount of money that you budgeted to the tune of over $12 million. That means that you budgeted, as an example, $400 million, and you spent $388 million. And I'm giving you, those are not the accurate numbers. But that's in essence what happened. You budgeted and you spent far less than what you budgeted. So that is a tremendous accomplishment. Your fund balance increased overall by a little over $2 million. Your total fund balance is right at $85 million, which is a net increase from last year to this year. There were no management letter comments that we issued. I've got very, very few clients that do not get some kind of a management letter. A management letter basically is a result of our testing of the transaction, the financial statements. We take a random sample of transactions, and we basically do a forensic audit on that particular transaction. That's what it is. We take a transaction from its infancy stage to its final disposition, whether it's starting with a requisition, to the purchase order, to the invoice, delivery of goods and services, accounting for those, paying, and ultimately posting them to your accounting records. We didn't find any exceptions when we tested. We didn't find any exception when we tested expenditures, revenues, payroll, anything related to our testing. We found nothing that warranted reporting to you. And that is an accomplishment. Let me go back to the unmodified opinion. I was presenting a report a couple of years ago, and a relatively brand-new board member, after I explained, back then it was unqualified opinion. And as I got through explaining an unqualified opinion, the board members asks me, well, you know, I don't know if I like this unqualified stuff. What do we have to do to get a qualified opinion? Nobody reacts to that because they don't know. An unqualified opinion means that the financial statements are stated properly and fairly. When one issues a qualified opinion, that means that something within your balance sheet or your income statement is not accurate. Probably the most prevalent is on accounting for your property taxes receivable or your infrastructure. Normally in school districts is ad valorem taxes. Or you've got a number of ad valorem on here, but you don't have a subsidiary ledger. You don't have any idea who those taxes are coming from. So we can't test them, we can't account for them. So we would give you an opinion such as, you know, your financial statements are fairly stated except for property taxes. That's a qualified opinion. We're qualifying because of that section, the financials. And that impacts everything that you were presented before I came on. A qualified opinion is not good. A qualified opinion could impact your bond rating. It could impact the relationship that you have with your financing company, with your taxpayers, with people that entrust you. So again, my congratulations to the board and the administration. Superintendent, thank you so much. And of course, you've got a great accounting staff that helps write this. I wish all my clients wrote their report. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but they do. And that's a compliment to not only to you all, but to everyone that participated in this. And really, that concludes my report. If there's any questions, I stand ready to answer them at this time.
I want to thank you. I think
Thank you very much.
for your good work.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If I can maybe excuse you.
Item number 1, approval of monthly disbursement.
We're bringing to you the disbursements for the month of December. We provided a separate file to the board members. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
Item number 2.
Item number 2, we're bringing to you to approve a resolution indicating that the Board of Trustees have received and reviewed the district's investment policies and strategies, the list of qualified brokers, and list of investment training sources as required by the Public Investment Act and United ISD Investment Policy. So in order to comply with the Public Funds Investment Act and district policy, the Board of Trustees need to annually review the district investment policies and strategies list of qualified brokers and training sources. And what the staff did was they provided a copy of our policy, and they indicated in red, it's on page 26, Mr. Z, what we added to our investment strategy. We added the term money market accounts so that we would be allowed to invest in money market accounts. And then we also modified on page, yeah, there you see the red. And then on page 29, we updated our qualified brokers. These are individuals that we're allowed to do investments through. And pretty much they were modified because a lot of these companies, they end up coming together and they come in a different name, or they, like Merrill Lynch and Morgan Keegan, they ended up combining with one of the other financials. So we just have to keep this updated every year. But these are the individuals that we're allowed to work with to get investments. And then, of course, the authorized training sources, these are the entities that can train. We have 4 investment officers that need to be trained every 2 years. So this is part of the whole adoption of the resolution that's saying that the board has reviewed the policy, strategies, list of qualified brokers, and the authorized training entities. So this is for your approval, the resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 4, approval of property tax refunds for the month of December 2018.
Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina, Mr. Santos, and members of the audience.
I bring to you the monthly property tax refunds for the month of December. We have taxpayer Eva and Hector Zamora for a total of $331.20. Also, CAT Industrial Properties LLC for $1,753.05. LB Manry Junior Testamentary Trust for a total of $1,504.94. Also, Laredo Laser and Surgery LTD for $7,000 for $171.44. And the last one is FNA DZ LLC for $1,272.95. These are the refunds that we're going to be issuing out, and there's no loss of revenue to the district.
Those were just overpaid, right?
Yes, yes, the accounts are paid in full. This is just the excess that it's overpaid. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Number 5, we presented that one to the instructional committee.
Okay. Item number 6, approve the request of board members, trustees for discretionary funds in various campuses.
Mr. Rodriguez, we don't have any requests at this time for this month.
Item number B, Finances Division monthly financials report.
We're presenting our superintendent's monthly financial report for the month of December 31st, 2018. You see our cash investment balance was $188,647,077. And there's a breakdown of which funds the cash and investments were part of. 67% of it was in general fund. 11% of our total portfolio were in demand accounts, and the portfolio yield is about 2.42%. So interest rates are going up little by little. Our administrative cost ratio has us at an actual of 8.25%. We had budgeted 8.07%. Our unaudited statements shows us at actual 171 million of revenues to date. We had budgeted 364. We're at 47%. And last year at this time, we were at 49%. And our expenditures, we're at 162.5 million of a 402.4 million. And we're at 40% of our expenditures versus 42% at the same time this past year. Tax office report, our current collection rate is 44.72%. We've collected over $94,897,053. And to date, we're at 50.25%. Our delinquent collection rate is 38.09%. $2,736,350 has been collected. To date, we're at 38.39%, and there's a comparison to last year at this time as well. The purchasing report section consists of all the bids and proposals awarded through December 31st, and the grants report section consists of everything that's been negotiated, amended, and reported for the various grant programs that we have through the grant department. And that's it for the report, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Item number 2, 2019-2020 budget update.
This is just to let the board know that we're ready in the process. Administration's been having budget meetings. We're meeting with certain staff members. We've met with special ed to talk about any potential units for next year. In fact, Mr. Garza's very important presentation right now will lead us into next year's enrollment, how many kids per school, we can do staffing. And then probably the key thing is that last week on January 8th, the legislative session started. And so we're all, I guess, getting our emails, trying to see where we're going to get impacted, whether accountability, education, or the financial end
And
also.
that's from the state, right?
Yes, yes. So we'll be keeping our eyes and ears open for that, and then bringing you hopefully a monthly report of where we are on all our staffing and revenue projections and things of that nature. So
Are our federal programs getting affected right now with our funds?
right now, we're not. We haven't received anything that, because I believe what we're getting right now was already approved through the Department of Ed. So I think that so far, we have not gotten any notice from TEA saying that anything's going to be slowed down, but we'll keep an eye on that too. We are a little concerned, but yes.
Thank you.
And that's it. Thank you.
Item number 3, proposed boundary changes for various campuses effective 2019-2020 school year.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Molina, those members of the audience, we're bringing before you today as information some proposed boundary changes that we have for this coming summer for the start of the school year. It has an impact on several campuses, and we want to make sure and share it with you. At this point, we present it to the board, then we schedule appointments or presentations to the parents that are affected with these particular boundary changes. We bring that input back to the board and then ask for approval officially at a future board meeting after we've actually had input from the community on the boundary changes. So the first boundary would be the Salinas-Reese elementary boundary. This is the current boundary as it exists today. Both Salinas and Reese are right next door to each other, as you may be familiar with in that particular area. The proposed changes is all the area that's listed here or shown here. These are the different subdivisions that are affected and the numbers corresponding to that as well. I did provide a printed copy for you there at your desk so that you could get some information or take it with you if you want to review some of the information. The actual impact, this is what the boundary would look like after the boundary change. If you notice here on the northern part of the boundary where Salinas had this area, which is between Jaime Zapata and 359, this area would now go to Bonnie Garcia Elementary School. That helps right now because Salinas currently has one bus that arrives at its campus, and it's from that particular area. Because of the Jaime Zapata roadway, it does require it to have transportation because of that area. So what we would do here is consolidate a route for this particular area that's up here on the northern part, where that same transportation route can pick up these students and go to the same campus that it's picking up currently. The area here would be basically where Ejido is our boundary between LISD and UISD. It would come through Pine Street, which is that area there, coming into the subdivision, going through Calle Puebla, through Jalapa Street, connecting to the Cuatro Vientos roadway. So everything north of that section would now be attending Reese Elementary School. Everything south of that section would now be attending Salinas Elementary School. We're proposing this boundary change for this summer so that the start of August would be the start of this particular new boundary for both Reese and Salinas. As you may know, that we had tried to open up Salinas in the Lomas del Sud subdivision this semester, this year, this spring semester, but due to some unforeseen circumstances with the development, mainly some certificate of occupancy that we needed from the city, and all of those approval processes, that was not able to happen this particular semester. So in order to make it a smooth transition for all the students and parents, we decided to make it effective for the summer, starting the 1st of August, the first day of school for August. So that's our plan as far as presenting this information. This area down here, the southern part of Wormser Road, where the actual school is located, the physical location, which is off Lomas del Sud, and this area here, that currently attends the Centeno Elementary, it's part of the Centeno Elementary boundary. So the impact there would be those students that would live around the campus would now attend that particular campus, which would now be named Salinas temporarily until whatever is decided with the actual current Salinas campus. What do the numbers look like? Currently, Reese Elementary has an enrollment of about 833 students. After all these changes occur, we project their enrollment to be around 770, so we would be able to bring down their enrollment slightly to allow them to grow in their particular area. Salinas Elementary currently has about 789 students. After all the boundary changes and all the areas that are affected, we anticipate their boundary to be at 786, so roughly a difference of about 3 students to where they are now. Keeping in mind, they will be going into a facility that could house 944 students at its maximum capacity. So they would actually have some space to grow. Again, the current Salinas Elementary has so many portables outside right now, so all these students will now be indoors in one brand new facility. And then, of course, the effect on Centeno is a small area, which is the area surrounding the campus itself. There's about 53 students that live in that area. They would be impacted and would also help Centeno Elementary reducing their enrollment down to a projected 883 students. The next area that's affected is a very small area. It's the boundary between Roosevelt and Veterans Elementary School. This is the current boundary of the elementary schools in those areas. This is the proposed change, which is this small little neighborhood section here. It's in the Eleden subdivision. And just keeping in mind previous history, before Veterans Elementary School was opened, this area belonged to Roosevelt before. So this particular change will just transition back to the elementary school that those students were attending. This is what the boundary would look like after the proposed change. And this is what the numbers would look like. So in Roosevelt's case, their current enrollment is at 687 students. After this particular change, we project their enrollment to be at 774. Veterans Elementary School is currently at 859 students, and after this particular change, we bring their enrollment projection to 760. This allows veterans to continue to grow. We have several subdivisions that are growing, particularly around the LBJ high school area and some of those, the new ninth grade campus, a lot of development occurring in those locations, so we need to be able to provide that future space for that particular location as well. And Roosevelt, as you can see, has remained steady, and this allows us the opportunity to balance both elementary schools in that particular area. And that, it concludes this information. We do want to update the board on the Troutman Herrera Middle School change that was going to occur. That has already been approved by the board as far as the boundary changes. We did postpone it because the facility wasn't available last year. It looks like that it will not be available for this coming school year as well. So we would be, again, it's a boundary that's already approved by the board. So we will be notifying those individuals that are affected that we would delay again that particular boundary for the following school year, which would be the 2020 August school year, for those students, separating between the current Troutman, which would move to 8800 McPherson, and then creating the Herrera Middle School at the current location where Troutman Middle School sits. In addition to that, the board did approve the high school boundaries between Alexander and United, and it would be our recommendation that we continue forward with that particular boundary change, regardless of the situation with the middle school. And that would mean that the current seventh graders would be impacted as freshmen 2 years from now. So wherever they live in their boundary, the new approved boundary, they would be attending that corresponding high school, which would be south of Shiloh, basically, would be students attending Alexander, and north of Shiloh would be those students attending or continuing to attend United High School.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
We have one more informational item that I think will dovetail into what Mr. Garza shared with you on Troutman Middle. I'm going to let Mr. Rangel share with you some information.
Good evening. I promise you not to keep you too long. I know it's everybody's in a hurry to go. Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Santos, members of the audience. Just wanted to report this item to give you an update on the future Troutman Middle School at 8800 McPherson. As Mr. Garza mentioned previously, we do have a lot of work to be conducted at that campus to ensure that we have it ready for the opening of Troutman Middle School at that location. For the past few months, since really Alexander Knight has relocated, we've taken this opportunity to slowly renovate it in-house through our maintenance department, while the curriculum department and all other staff conducted an assessment to see what is really needed at that campus. So we finalized that assessment. We also retained the services of an architect. Our objective being to ensure that this campus, which originally, as you know, is a high school and then a ninth grade campus, to ensure that it meets all our TEA educational specifications for a middle school. That's our utmost priority, and to ensure that all the facilities are adequate and up to par with our latest middle school standards. As we know, different age groups, facilities, technology, everything has changed over the years. So this summary gives you basically just in a very, I know it's very busy with a lot of items report, but just wanted to put it all in one page to give you an idea as to what needs to get done. We divided this project into three components. Basically, like I mentioned, what we're doing in-house through maintenance. We've got staff from our maintenance and operations departments has been working this past few months. It's been vacant. And basically painting and doing demolition work and upgrading all the security systems, the master key, lock, all the hardware. So we pointed out there on this report the status. Some of them have been 100% complete, some 50%, especially the painting throughout the corridors. We are working on the science labs as well as to convert some rooms into special education, looking towards the future when it becomes the middle school. The second component are items that require a contracted service. We need to get a construction company because they're fairly big in scope of work and major renovation. That's what we're doing through the architect, and we're going to be issuing out through purchasing specifications, plans and specifications to receive proposals. We're talking about items to completely renovate the band hall, the ensemble, the choir room, music rooms, some of the science labs, as well as what we're putting here, some of the insulation that needs to be renovated. The gymnasium, we need to upgrade it to the current standards. At one time, that entire area, the locker rooms were not air conditioned, so we're ensuring that all that is provided. And then the third component on item C was just miscellaneous contracts like roofing, waterproofing, some science lab tables that need to be purchased, and scoreboards, everything else that comes, it's kind of like lump everything else that doesn't fit into one or two. So if you look at the first item, we're looking at about $472,000 just to comply, mainly materials, to complete all those 18 items that are necessary. The second item, we're looking at about $788,000. That includes replacing the gymnasium air conditioning and heating system. As you notice, item number 6 there, that's the bulk of that item, or that cost, is to replace the system completely. It's over 28 years old. So we're going to ensure that it's adequate and it's proper. That item is being funded through the bond, 2013 bond program. We visited with a bond oversight committee, and at this point, we're just designing it. We're going to go out for bids. Once we get the lowest proposal, we'll bring it to the committee as well as to the Board of Trustees for consideration. And then the last item is $333,000 for all those miscellaneous items. Some of them have already been completed. So on letter D, just summarized it, we're looking at about $1.6 million. This does not include the technology, infrastructure, and furniture and equipment. We're working on that. Now, as far as the timeline, important one on the bottom of the report, wanted to bring up that we do have about 14 months of work to be completed through the maintenance department, as well as the job order contract that we'll be issuing probably the first week of May to finish it by March 30th of 2020. And then the HVAC replacement in the gymnasium, we're looking at also about to complete it by 12 months from now, February, maybe 2020. So that's the reason why we need to take all this time to really give that campus a facelift, a complete upgrade, to ensure the quality of our facilities are there and we meet the educational specifications. We have some photos that we wanted to share with you and the audience, just briefly. I know many of us have not been to that campus in a while, but I wanted to ensure that we look at some of those areas, the corridors. We have painted, like I mentioned, about 50% of the academic wings. We've got some of the typical classrooms that we've been painting, but we got to replace all the marker boards, install new smart boards. Some of the areas need to be completely refurbished. We're also looking at the CATE areas and special education. Some of the computer labs need to be completely revamped. That's academic wing. As you notice there, we removed all the old, actually, there were chalkboards still in some areas that we haven't bought chalk in a long time. So everything's going to marker board, so I was surprised by that. But all kinds of things we found. And we've got also the band hall in there. I think the next photographs, there it is. It does need a lot of renovation. And again, also to bring it up to our new standards, to ensure that it's the same as all our newer middle schools, like Perales Middle School. Mr. Vera and his staff have been very helpful in ensuring. And also, our principals from Troutman Middle has to walk the campus, giving her feedback. Those are some areas that completely need to be refurbished in the small rehearsal rooms there in the band hall. So there's quite a bit of work. Those are the, that's I think part of the music room, the band hall, and some corridors in areas in the gymnasiums, small rehearsal. The building is very well built. I mean, it's solid, the structure is excellent. Those are the science labs that we need to get them out and replace all the tables and millwork. We don't need gas in this facility like high schools do, so we're removing all that also and going electric. And there's just renovations that have to occur throughout those science labs. 2 of the science labs, we're going to convert them to special education, self-contained classrooms for middle school level. And I don't know if you all have any questions, but
You'll be knocking down walls?
in some areas, very minor, but just to ensure we have the adequate educational specification space, like in the special ed rooms. But other than that, it's really just refurbishing everything.
And this will, of course, delay the opening of Troutman Middle in Herrera at least one more year. Start probably school year 2021 school year. That's when we will
Correct.
be able to have this campus ready to be able to move Troutman Middle and open up Herrera. Okay, I've notified Ms. Menchaca today, just to let her know. Also, Mr. Montemayor, that's his area, just to make him aware of the delay and the reason why. Okay?
Thank you.
Public comments? Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.